Calvin had always wanted to be a cowboy. Ever since he was a little boy, he dreamed of riding horses, roping cattle, and living on the range. He loved watching Western movies and reading books about the Wild West. He even had a cowboy hat and boots that he wore every day. But Calvin lived in the city, far away from any ranch or farm. His parents were busy lawyers who didn't have time for his hobbies. They wanted him to study hard and become a successful professional like them. They didn't understand his passion for cowboys and thought it was childish and silly. One day, Calvin decided to run away from home and find his own adventure. He packed his backpack with some clothes, snacks, and his favorite toy gun. He put on his hat and boots and sneaked out of the house while his parents were at work. He took the bus to the train station and bought a ticket to the nearest town in the countryside. He hoped to find some cowboys there who would take him in and teach him their ways. He imagined himself riding with them, sleeping under the stars, and having fun. He was so excited that he didn't notice the strange looks he got from the other passengers on the train. When he arrived at the town, he was disappointed to see that it was nothing like he expected. It was a small and dusty place with only a few buildings and people. There were no horses or cattle in sight, only cars and trucks. The people looked bored and tired, not happy and free. He walked around the town, looking for something interesting. He saw a grocery store, a gas station, a diner, and a motel. Nothing caught his eye until he came across a wooden sign that said Calvin's Saloon. He felt a surge of curiosity and excitement. He wondered if this was where the cowboys hung out. Maybe this Calvin was one of them, or maybe he knew them. He decided to check it out and see for himself. He pushed open the door and entered the saloon. It was dark and smoky inside, with a few tables and chairs scattered around. A jukebox played some old country music in the corner. A bar ran along one wall, where a man with a mustache and a cowboy hat was serving drinks. Calvin walked up to the bar and sat on a stool. He looked around and saw that there were only a few customers in the saloon. All of them men who looked older than him. They wore jeans and shirts, not cowboy outfits. They didn't seem to notice him or care about him. He felt nervous and out of place. He wished he had stayed home or gone somewhere else. He wondered what he was doing here. "Hey kid, what can I get you?" the man behind the bar asked him. Calvin looked up at him and saw that he had a name tag that said Calvin. He felt a spark of hope. "Are you Calvin?" he asked. "That's me." "And you are?" the man replied. "I'm Calvin too." Calvin said. "Really? Well, what do you know? Two Calvins in one place. That's rare." The man said. "Yeah, it is." Calvin said. "So, what brings you here, Calvin?" the man asked. "I'm looking for cowboys." Calvin said. "Cowboys? What do you mean?" the man asked. "You know, cowboys. Like in the movies and books." Calvin said. The man laughed. "Kid, there are no cowboys here. This is not the Wild West. This is just a small town in Nevada," he said. "But I thought there were cowboys everywhere." Calvin said. "Nope, cowboys are long gone, kid. They belong to history now." The man said. "Then why do you have a saloon?" Calvin asked. "It's not a real saloon, kid. It's just a bar with a theme. People like to pretend they're cowboys sometimes, but they're not." The man said. "Then why do you wear a cowboy hat?" Calvin asked. "It's just for show, kid. It's part of my costume." The man said. "Then why do you have my name?" Calvin asked. "That's just a coincidence, kid. It's not like we're related or anything." The man said. Calvin felt crushed. He realized that he had been fooled by his own imagination. There were no cowboys here, or anywhere else for that matter. He had wasted his time and money on a stupid fantasy. He felt like crying, but he didn't want to show it. He wanted to go home, but he didn't know how to get back. He felt lost and alone. He looked at the man and said, "Can I have a glass of water, please?" The man nodded and poured him a glass of water. He handed it to him and said, "Here you go, kid. Drink up." Calvin took the glass and drank the water. He felt a lump in his throat and a tear in his eye. He said, "Thank you, Calvin." The man said, "You're welcome, Calvin." They looked at each other and smiled. They felt a connection, even if it was only for a moment. They were two Calvins in a saloon, looking for cowboys.